Hello everyone and welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. I'm Cassie Trask. Today we're going to be playing with some BetterPress plates by Spellbinders. This is the bold color mix numbers. These are the BetterPress plates, so they go with the BetterPress machine. Boy, try saying that several times fast. It's great because it has these big bold numbers and several sentiments in it. And they're big. They're like 2 inches each, so they are going to take up a good chunk of your card, which is wonderful. So you can do them for all occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, you name it. And then I also have the cutting dies that go along with it. You could get these separate because these will cut out some cool numbers, but it also has these dies so you can cut out those sentiments that are in the BetterPress plate. We're going to be bringing in some Wild Berry BetterPress ink and also some BetterPress black. And then I have some various cardstock colors that we're going to trim down. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull out those plates and I'm going to bring in my BetterPress system. This is what it looks like. Mine is well loved. I love using these. And then we also have some BetterPress cotton card panels. So these are really good for the BetterPress system. Obviously, they're designed specifically for it. And so I'm going to pull off that top part of my BetterPress system and I'll pull out these plates. They're magnetic, which is great. So you can just stick those down. I have some scrap paper and I'm going to make sure that those numbers are a little bit away from each other just so that I can die cut those out easily. There's obviously some guidelines on this clear piece that goes on top of your BetterPress system. And I'm just going to tack that down with a little bit of Post-it tape. Now I'm bringing in that Wild Berry BetterPress ink and I'm kind of twisting and pouncing as I put that on top of those numbers. It's a really pretty pink and I thought this would be beautiful for the numbers 2 and 5 for 25. So I'll run that through my Platinum Spellbinders system, just my die cutting machine, and then I'll show you what that looks like. It's so cool. So that BetterPress system, if you've never seen it before, it presses the plates beautifully. You get this nice letterpress and it also gets that color on there as well. I have another piece of scrap cotton paper and I'm going to do the words now. So we're going to use happy birthday and then the TH for 25th. I'm just putting those down on there, lining it up on my grid, and then I'm going to use that same Post-it tape to tack down this piece of scrap paper. And then I'll line it up on my system. This time I'm going to use the BetterPress black. And so I'll ink that up. Once again, doing that kind of like pouncing and twisting motion. Just make sure that I get the ink on there properly. And then I'll run that through my Platinum Spellbinders die cutting machine as well. We'll pull that back and take a look. It looks so cool. I love the letterpress look of it. And then I'll clean up my plates and we'll move on to doing the die cutting. So I'm going to use that same Post-it tape and I'll pull off the numbers and I'll tack those down. I'll do the same thing for our words that are in there as well. There's 3 dies for the words. And then I'll just tack those down. Then we'll run that through our die cutting machine so that I can have those all die cut out. Look at how cool that is. I love it. Super happy. And so then we can get started on making our background, which if you have a bunch of scrap paper, this is the perfect type of background for that. And I definitely do. You're a card maker, so I imagine you do as well. And so I'm going to bring in my Guillotine trimmer and then I'm going to trim down some cardstock. I'm just going to trim down 1/4 inch pieces. So I'm trying to make sure that this is easy to do. So I'm going to trim this down so that it's perfectly ready for that. Make sure you pick cardstock that is long enough because you want to make sure that it'll go across your paper. So I'm going to cut out about 4 each of the colors that I've chosen. So I've got this beautiful bright pink. I have this lighter pink that we're doing the same thing, about 4 pieces. Then I have this yellow, same thing. They're each just 1/4 inch. Then we have this blue. This one was a little short. It works out, but it's a little short. And then I have this very deep purple that we're doing the same thing with it. The Guillotine trimmer worked perfectly for that. And then I have a piece of white cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So it's the full front of an A2 size card. And I want to use some of this Scor-Tape. So this is the 6x6 Scor-Tape that's in the ScrapbookPal shop. And I want this to go diagonally across my cardstock. So I'm just going to trim this down. It's going to be about 2 3/4 inch, but this stuff is perfect for that. And because I want to use those strips on that background, that's why I pulled out my 6x6. As you can see, I'm kind of using my grid mat to make sure that I have everything lined up on there the way I want it. And then I'm just going to peel off the release paper when I'm ready. And I'm going to save that because we're going to use that again. And then I'll just tack down my paper or my adhesive. Using some serrated scissors, these are the Tim Holtz ones, so that glue or that adhesive isn't going to stick to it. I'm going to trim off the excess, and then I'm going to stick the excess right back down on that release paper because we are going to use it again later. Waste not, want not, right? And so now I'm going to line this up on my grid mat so that I can make sure that I get those papers nice and straight. So as you'll notice, I'm lining that up. Even though it's diagonal on my paper, I'm lining those up so that they will match the 1/4 inch grids on my grid mat. You could probably skip this part, but I don't trust myself. So we are going to use all the skills possible. Next, I'm just taking each of those strips of paper and I'm kind of lining them up in a color order that I like, playing around with it. And I think I like that. So we're going to peel off that release paper. We can get rid of that one. And then once again, using that grid behind it, we're going to take each of those pieces of paper and we're just going to stick those down, butting them up against the previous piece. This is why it's important to have cardstock strips that are longer than your paper so that you don't struggle. You'll notice with this blue, I struggle a little bit. In fact, it sticks down and then I have to kind of peel it back. And it's not the only time that happens. So we'll have more issues with that blue later on. And then I'll just start over with my color, going purple, light pink, yellow, dark pink, and then the blue once again. And then I'll finish it off with that last purple one that I have. I really love how this color combo is coming along. And really all I did was go through my scraps and pulled out ones that I really liked and that I thought went well together. Because I have a whole bag of scraps, that's for sure. All right, that actually takes care of that full front. There is no adhesive showing now, so I'll peel off that Post-it tape. And then we're going to flip this over and stick this back in our guillotine trimmer and trim off the excess pieces. And then we're not going to save any of those. We don't need them. They're not quite long enough to do anything with really anyway. So I'll trim those off and then I'm going to throw those away. But yeah, isn't that cool? And then I want to do a little bit on the inside. This is where that excess of the adhesive comes in handy. So my card base, like I said, was an A2. So that measured 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and was scored at 4.25 inches. And so then I'm just taking those leftover pieces of adhesive and we'll tack that down and then use those serrated scissors once again to trim off the excess. I'm going to stick it back down on the release paper, although I'm not saving these for anything this time. Used what I wanted. So we can get rid of that. But once again, I'm going to tack this down with some more of that Post-it tape. And then I'll peel off the release paper of these. And then we'll once again start with that same process, starting with the purple. And then working my way to the light pink, the yellow. I actually forget that dark pink. And so I went ahead and put the blue down, but I pull it away. I'm able to pull it away when I realize what I did after I trim off this excess. And I am going to save some of those because I will need that purple, but yeah, peel that off. And it's still sticky enough since this is the Scor-Tape. That stuff is nice and sticky. I don't have any issues sticking that pink right back down over the top of it. And you could put this back in your guillotine trimmer if you wanted. I'm just going to go ahead and use my scissors to trim off the excess. And then you'll have the inside matching the outside. I love doing that when making cards, just having a little something from the outside being on the inside. So now I'm going to grab in some Scrapbook Adhesive 3D foam squares. These are fabulous. They come in white, they also come in black, and they come in a couple different sizes. So I've put those all over the back of my 2 and my 5. And then I'm going to use a T-ruler, trying to make sure that I get this down as straight as possible. And it looked pretty straight to me, I won't lie, but now that I'm looking at it in person, it's not quite as straight as I had hoped it would be. So even using the T-ruler, I struggled. And I'm eyeballing, kind of trying to put margins on the left and right hand side of the letters 2 and 5. So we'll peel off that release paper on the 5 and do our best to get that down there as straight as possible. Honestly, the recipient's going to love it, so it really doesn't matter, right? It's a handmade card. Everybody loves those. So using that T-ruler, we'll put down our happy birthday. It worked there. I can already tell I didn't get it completely straight, so I'm just going to move it down. That's the beauty of the liquid glue. I'm using the Barely Art glue. And then we'll do the same thing with the T and the H. Then we only have one more thing to do, which would be to adhere our panel down to our card base. So I'm just going to use some more of that Barely Art glue, putting that all over the background. And then we can adhere this down to the front of our card base. And then that's going to finish off our card for today. I hope you love it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you do, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that ScrapbookPal has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.